time aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. I am on the road this week, hanging out at Resorts World in Las Vegas while Mr. Kerr appears to be driving his desk at home, which I imagine is a condition that will change in the very near future.
Tomorrow, if all things go according to plan, as we take the RV out again for a little long extended weekend, Mrs. Kerr is headed on a cruise with just her and her mom. So me and the kids went, hooray, let's go do something crazy and fun that mom doesn't want to do, like camping.
This is
strangely enough, every time we go camping, mom's nowhere to be found. I don't know.
Thank God
feature,
this is
not a bug.
Thank God this is not a camping podcast. It was for a brief period of time back in 2020 and 2021. I
wish we had Starlink back then, because that makes camping a whole lot more fun now. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm sure that makes it better, and I will continue to live vicariously through your reports.
Anytime you want to head on to Tabor City, North Carolina, let me know.
There's so many wonderful destinations in the world that I haven't visited yet that I'm gonna cover those before a repeat voyage to the wonderful Tabor City. Though that burger joint that we hit during that monsoon was pretty reasonable. So, all right, so we got a whole list of a slew of topics today. Delta has changed their fare names and made things a little bit more confusing, I think, in some ways for customers. Frontier has rolled out their companion pass. This is live now, something that we're both, I think, a little bit excited about, maybe to try. Newark Airport continues to be Newark Airport. There's some definite signs of more travel softening. But Mr. Kerr, we start with what might just make this a Hall of Fame episode in the Miles to Go podcast. Miles to Go podcast.
I don't know what you're about to say, but I like the Hall of Fame.
This is Hall of Fame, and you do know what I'm about to say. Instead of a Slack question this week, we are featuring some commentary from our community, and it's some great news to report, and some kind words about both you and me, which doesn't happen often. So Jim B., who is a longtime listener to the show, wrote us a note, and I'll paraphrase here. He said, "Until 2 months ago, I was a DFW-based AA road warrior earning executive platinum the hard way for 10 years in a row." I think you and I can both empathize with Jim there. Reason for his break was a throat cancer diagnosis. Since March, he's done 6 chemo treatments and 35 neck radiation treatments. A week and a half out of treatment, battling chronic fatigue and on a liquid diet. The good news, cancer is gone, and I should get better soon. The days are long. It seems like a battle, but I am blessed in so many ways. And here comes the nice things that he said about us. I think you have the best Travel Points Awards podcast out there. Even your theme song is great. I learned a lot, enjoyed learning about the other airlines, just like the other airlines that screw you over, just like AA does to me. Seriously, you've made my long days better when I hear your fun banter back and forth. More than anything, I appreciate your true love for family and using the benefits of work to make the family life better with travel, as I have done for years. Ed, hope to sit next to you up front on some AA medal someday to learn about your day job. Richard, keep being the kick-ass dad you try to be. I love your goal of going to away games with your son. I need to take off National Stadium this summer, and I will have been to every MLB stadium. Pretty awesome way to start the show out, man.
Jim, best wishes to you there. Way to kick cancer's butt, and hope that stays in remission and that you can get back on the road. And really just appreciate you taking the time out of your day with so much going on to write us that message, man. Makes you feel all warm inside. The little Kerr tummy is just so happy right now. Just feeling nice from that note. I really appreciate that.
I did not know that we were going to get a little Kerr tummy reference this early in the show.
I can save it till later. I can do it again later.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and a dad gummit thrown in there somewhere as well.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, we're closing in on 400 episodes of the show. We love doing the show, but hearing it from listeners is always a lot of fun, because we're sort of like talking out into the void. But to also hear Jim's story about the cancer diagnosis and the recovery, it's close to my heart. Folks that have known me for a while, like Richard, know how cancer has affected my family and some of the things that we do in the background to support various cancer outreach and charities. And Jim brings us back to square one on what's most important in life, which is our health. And one of the things that we talked about when we started the Slack community, and this is not a pitch for the Slack community, this is more talking to the folks that are part of the Slack community so they understand what we want to continue to do. Part of the Slack community and the money that comes in from that helps support the show from a video and an audio standpoint, paying for those costs. But we also like to support various charities. And love Jim's story, and so we will be donating a portion of the proceeds of the Slack money in Jim's honor for his recovery and hopefully what is a remission diagnosis here shortly. In your honor, Jim, to a cancer charity that we support called Pelotonia. And we really wish you all the best in the future. And we love that we were a small part of your journey through what had to be some pretty tough treatments. And for me being gone for a week away from my family, Richard, to get that note while I'm gone for a week and to know that there are people out there that love listening to us, it's a little bit of an uplift, in the middle of a very long travel slog.
Indeed. Cancer tough. One of the rival dads here in Georgia lost his brother last night to cancer. So give a shout out and a note of love to my buddy and wish everybody the best. And if you are fighting this stuff, just keep doing it. Don't give up. Keep fighting. And best wishes for everybody out there.
Yep, I agree with everything that Kerr said, which doesn't happen often. Beating cancer is all about building a team of people that can be around you, and it's when you're your most vulnerable and you need the people around you to support you. So I hope everybody out there can build that team and that before Mr. Kerr and I get old and gray. Well, okay, before Mr. Kerr gets old and gray, that the cancer will be less of the scourge that it is today on families.
I grew the facial hair out the last few weeks until a couple days ago, and it's the first time I've seen how much gray that there is now on my face. And I cut it all back. It was too much gray to be under 40 years old.
I am heavily into the salt phase of salt and pepper as video watchers.
It's not too much pepper there, my man.
Nope, not too much pepper, not too much pepper at all. Jim, thanks for putting a smile on our face this week. We're certainly rooting for you for sure, and yes, I do hope that we're sitting up front at some point in the future, because either that means that American Airlines has cheap first class fares, or I actually cleared an upgrade. Both things I'm perfectly comfortable with. So
still $189 for first class Atlanta to LaGuardia the week that they launched the flights in September. American, do not change that price until I can lock my schedule in. So 3 more months.
Don't change. Right, don't ever change.
Airfares always stay the same for 3 months in a row. I'm sure it'll be the same.
Of course, yeah. Well, if you've got a story to share with us, whether it's as uplifting as Jim's or you want to tell us all the things that we're doing wrong, you can text us at 571-293-6659. You can find him at Kerr Points on all those social media channels. I'm at Pizza in Motion. TikTok is at Miles to Go Podcast, as well as on Instagram. And you can email ed@pizzainmotion.com, and you just might hear your question or comment read on the air with Mr. Kerr and myself.
TikTok still exists as of time of recording.
As of time recording, and seems to be settling in for the long haul. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right, Mr. Kerr, where do you think we should go first? We got Delta, Frontier Companion Passes, Newark, and whatever the heck is going on with travel demand right now. Pick it, man. Pick our topic.
Let's spread out the good news that is Frontier Companion Pass and wedge a little bit of I don't know if I would call it bad news, but I think just setting us up for some bad news in the future with what Delta has done hold on, let me look again real quick how they are empowering customers with choice. That is, how are they doing that with the news that came out this week? Tee it up, man. What has Delta done in order to give you and I all the empowerment of choice?
Yeah, and I have a feeling that we'll probably differ just a little bit on the impact of these changes. But so they've done a couple of things. First off is they've renamed a bunch of their various categories, and I won't go into all of the different names other than to say that they're sort of tiering in each level now, where basic economy used to be its own bucket, and now on the website you'll see that displayed more along with regular main cabin fares, but you'll be choosing between those two options. And where this could lead to some complexity for folks short term, there was already some complexity when you were searching for economy fares on sites like Google Flights or other travel aggregators. Can't say that word today. And this lumping together of basic economy and main cabin under the same header may lead to some further confusion for folks, where you really have to drill in to figure out what it is you're getting if you're not shopping on the airline's website. I will say that at least at a high level, looking at the screenshots of what Delta has shared, it certainly looks understandable on their website. But as you know, that could be tougher to translate in the aggregator space, if that's a fair way to say it.
Yeah, and Delta.com continues to just not work for me. We're sorry, but there's a problem processing your request. This has been happening on and off for the last several months as I try and bring up what they're displaying today.
Did you say Marriott or Delta? Sorry, I couldn't hear
Delta. Yeah. I think it's pretty terrible shopping experience. You're showing main cabin price, but that's the main basic price as it's called now. You, in order to not be stuck, you got to look for the main classic. And just to be clear, there are now 11 different fare types that you can shop. Delta Main Basic, Main Classic, Main Extra, Comfort Classic, Comfort Extra, First Classic, First Extra, Premium Select Classic, Premium Select Extra, Delta One Classic, Delta One Extra. Not to be confusing at all about what you're going to get, especially as Ed said, if you're shopping not on Delta.com. This is like, you got three kinds of seats on an airplane for most of the narrow bodies on Delta. You got first class, economy, comfort, and then you got your regular main cabin. There are now, not all planes have premium select and Delta One, but there are essentially like 9 different ways that you can buy a ticket for 3 different kinds of seats. Nothing much changes with what's included in these fares now, but we know, and they have openly said in 2025 that they are going to unbundle fares even more. So this has laid the framework for the basic business, the basic first, the basic Delta One, which is probably going to give you less sky miles. You're not going to be able to pick a seat. You may not be able to do things like pick a meal beforehand, no refundability, changeability, and it's going to offer you quote unquote choice and value. But we all know this is just designed to increase the bottom line of the airline when they're limited in how many actually physically different seats there are. I don't like this. I want to just have one price, one set of benefits, and not have to put on my investigator and detective glasses every time I'm buying a ticket. And God forbid I buy it not on Delta.com, which is, again, what they're trying to incentivize. But we're experts. We can figure this out. We can handle it. To the people like my in-laws, and again, Emily's mom is flying tomorrow down to catch the cruise, and it's the one time every 2 or 3 years she's going to fly. She's not going to be able to figure this out. People who don't travel aren't going to be able to figure this out. You're just going to be met with confusion or misunderstandings. Or you see again, hey, this is how much my ticket's going to cost, not knowing that you got to do an extra click now to get to the main classic fares. That, and it's just like, why? Like, this is not empowering customers. This is making it more confusing, and this is laying up for the future where you're going to get less for more. And if you want to pay what you pay today for just a main cabin seat with the regular benefits and Sky Miles earnings and things that you get, it's going to cost more. You're going to be paying the same price you are now for less once these things fully roll out. And as I've said, just being an Atlanta hub captive, Delta is prohibitively expensive to fly out of a hub. And this is not going to make it any better, which is why I just cannot wait until American starts flying this route so that I can shift my business, because it's prohibitively expensive. I don't like this. This list, unfortunately, if it succeeds, is what the other airlines are going to do going forward, man. But this more choice is not better, in my opinion, here.
Yeah, I mean, I want to try to be fair. I do think there are some upsides to the change, and we haven't discussed those yet specifically. I'm going to follow on your comments, and then I'll frame up one change that I think is a positive for some customers from this framework. But from a visibility standpoint, and I'll see if I can't do like a screen recording. At worst case, we'll maybe put up some screenshots in the show for folks who are watching on YouTube. So from a methodology standpoint, to follow on what Richard is saying, what you'll see when you go to the website, and you can set preferences, to be clear. If you want to get advanced, and you can tell the website to select what you're looking for in terms of like, show me Delta Main, don't show me Delta Main Basic. But to Richard's point, that's going to be harder for folks who don't use the Delta.com site frequently. But what you do is, like, so the standard view is still the same when you search for a date. You've got your Delta Main bucket, your Delta Comfort bucket, and your Delta First bucket. And it's when you click on Delta Main that it sort of explodes these 3 choices: Main Basic, Main Classic, and Main Extra. And so a couple of things that sort of irk me about this setup is, sometimes, as you all know, like, we'll compare different fares for different flights on the same day, or maybe you're thinking about, well, do I fly to New York Tuesday night or do I fly Wednesday morning? And price comes into some of those equations. And with the way that this website is set up now, you can only explode one flight at a time. So if I open up and I want to see my Main Basic, my Main Classic, and my Main Extra for a specific flight, and I'm focusing on classics, if I go look at another flight, those prices disappear for the previous flight. So I can't put both of them on the screen at the same time. So that's one thing that I think is a downside, because I want to compare Delta Main fares, and so I've got to take extra steps to do that, either in setting my advanced preferences or screenshotting or going back and forth. The other thing on the pricing that I found interesting, and I just picked, Dulles to LAX for some random dates in November. So there's two separate flights I'll go over with you. They're both connecting flights, through two different Delta hubs from my hometown of Dulles. One had main basic at $259, main classic at $304, and main extra at $349. Okay, fair enough. The next fare down, different hub, was $212 for main basic, so call it $40 less. $297 for main classic, $7 less, so the gap is closing. And then main extra was literally the same price, $349. So the basic price went down in some cases, but the classic and the extra fare stayed higher in those cases. There's definitely a lot to absorb with the way that they're showing this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, nobody ever asked for more complexity. I just don't believe that's a human nature to say I want things to be more complex. Don't know how else to say that. So, yeah, man, like that's kind of my piece on this for now.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say as a positive is, in the United world, you're able to buy flights based on fare bucket fairly easily. I mean, you have to know how to do it, but you can go in advance and you can search and say, I want to buy a W fare, which used to be required to be even upgrade eligible on certain flights. Or you can buy up all the way to a M class or a B class or a Y class. And the higher fare class you buy, the higher your upgrade priority is. But you sort of had to know that. It wasn't very obvious to just like the regular mainstream traveler. And Delta has added more transparency here in that the main extra flight will be prioritized over the main classic and the main basic for complimentary upgrades. As you and I know, upgrades are not a big part of the current framework, but if you're doing your homework and they've made it easier to buy something that puts you higher on the upgrade list, I will give them points for making that easier than United makes it today.
Sure. Again, my main concern here is 2-3 months from now when things are completely unbundled and you got to pay more to get what you get today at the same price, which is what's going to happen. And then that'll be a sad day.
I'm just waiting for the day when there's nothing left to unbundle because I thought we were done unbundling, and yet here we are.
Dude, I mean, booking some of these award tickets and looking at flights for Europe this summer, right? Being reminded that in international transatlantic business class, you can get charged to select a seat.
Yep.
Is just really something.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's dig into, why don't we go Frontier Companion Pass next? So I think this one has some definite positives. There are some things that they do better than Southwest does with their Companion Pass, and some things that they do worse. So high level, what you're getting with Frontier Companion Pass is if you were lucky enough to have gone through the status match recently, or if you have Frontier status through flying them or spend on the credit card, you can designate a free companion for every paid ticket that you fly. And you don't need to designate that companion ahead of time. You'll be responsible for the relevant taxes and fees, which in most cases will be minimal. International flights, generally speaking, are higher. But overall, I would say this is a nice benefit with a couple of nuances. I just offer my quick take. I think the ability to select your companion at time of booking as opposed to having to pick a companion and then change them like Southwest does separate from your booking process is definitely a plus. I'd call it a small negative that you can't book these on award tickets, but Frontier flights for the most part are pretty affordable, so I don't view this as a big negative. Curious, Mr. Kerr, to see how this affects your preview of Frontier tales to come.
Yeah, look, really happy with the gold status that I picked up for having a Southwest account for $40. We'll have had several flights booked already, again, just to do standard hop downs to Orlando, but I do find myself looking at other destinations now with Frontier for this year, again, because Delta is so prohibitively expensive to fly out of Atlanta. I'm looking at anything else. I think this is great. I think it's a smart move. They're obviously taking on, some of that Southwest noise that's been going on over the last 6 months. I haven't been able to find a walk through the screenshots of the mechanics of how exactly you do this to make sure that it is nice and simple and easy. I really wish I could get into that platinum or diamond status, 50,000 points, elite status points for platinum, 100,000 for diamond. That would be fantastic. I think the biggest perk that I see here that Ed confirmed is your companion does take on your elite status benefits, which for me, huge, right? That's you get, the free seat selection at the time of booking, which is what you want to do if, one of my kids is going to be, a carry-on bag, like that's huge, which again just puts us back into the next, is this the best thing in domestic flying, having Frontier status? Yes, if you live somewhere that has plenty of Frontier destinations, and Frontier has added even more routes out of Atlanta as Southwest has departed the gates. They just opened 3 new gates actually at the end of the E-terminal that are all Frontier occupied at the Atlanta airport. It's been a long time since some new gates have been opened. So I'm hoping that Frontier continues to have success in Atlanta. I'm really excited about getting some value. I'm going to take another, dare I say, take a look at their co-brand card again to see like what would it really take to get 50,000 elite status points, because I think it's just a tremendous deal.
Yeah, I'd be curious how much you'd be leaving on the table versus other spends, say like on your Bilt card or things like that. So, definitely something to think about. I think just given the normal spend, I think if you weren't going to have a reasonable number of, paid flights on Frontier, say like as a business traveler or something like that, my guess is you're probably giving up a fairly decent amount of value on spend on another credit card. But I think, that's something that we could talk about in a future episode, try to run a comparison between the Frontier card and something else.
One thing I haven't read yet, as I was reading, I didn't see it on the FAQs. How long is it good for? Is it like if I earn it this year, is it all of this year, the rest of this year, and all of next year? Is it a rolling 12-month calendar?
Yeah, you're right. I haven't looked. It's right. I mean, like everything else with Frontier, this is all like this rapidly changing. So it's out for what's out there for fares now, which would be the next 6 months. I'm not sure if it'll go beyond that.
Yeah, let's see if I can find that while we continue to just do topics here.
Great. Well, why don't we pick a topic that you don't know anything about, like the newest travel partner that Bilt Rewards has added?
Yeah.
So while you research, I'll tee this up for folks. So Bilt Rewards added a really interesting travel partner because it's not an airline that's a frequent travel partner for the flexible currencies. That's Japan Airlines, and the benefit here. Yeah, as a guy who's been to Japan twice over the past less than a year, Japan's really cheap right now with the yen to dollar ratio. It's such a beautiful country to visit, but it can be hard to find affordable flights there. And being able to have access to Japan Airlines' program is a huge plus in my opinion. It's another 1-to-1 transfer for Bilt Rewards, and that you guys have even gotten some preferential terms, if you will, for how long you have to wait to be able to transfer to book your first ticket.
Yeah, we were really excited when we started having conversations with the folks from Japan Airlines. I think they've made no secret that they want to make a bit more of an impression here in the North America market, both with their new onboard product, putting the A350s in Dallas and New York City. I've seen a lot more advertising for them. I think Japan is just so on fire right now from a destination standpoint that they're doing it at the right time. They have had their own co-brand card in the U.S. market for quite a few years, but it's pretty much just a 1x on all spend thing with a very minimal sign-up bonus. But I've been a huge fan of Japan Airlines Mileage Bank since I lived in Japan and became familiar with the program. This fantastic set of One World partners, but also some other partners like Emirates and some other airlines. You can book Air France flights with Japan Airlines miles at very advantageous rates if you can find the availability. And it's just a program that hit underneath the radar for a long time because it's just too difficult to access the currency here in the U.S. You could transfer from Marriott at 3-to-1. And then if you have a legacy Barclay Arrival Premier card, they have an 11.5 to 5 transfer ratio of Arrival Premier miles to Japan Airlines Mileage Banks that still exists, but you cannot get that card anymore. So it was a while, about a year and a half ago, the team from Tokyo came to New York. We had them in the Bilt office, and we had an amazing dinner afterwards and just kind of hit it off and said, let's try and figure out how to make this work. We'd love to introduce the currency into the U.S. market at a 1-to-1 transfer ratio. So finally getting that live, it was a huge win. We've seen a lot of traction from that. The one nuance that Ed did bring up, I do want to talk about. Traditionally, your Japan Airlines Mileage Bank account has to be 60 days old before you can redeem miles. This is just an anti-fraud rule that the program has stuck in place. We knew that would be a pretty big hurdle to ever have people transfer to Japan Airlines if they had just signed up for an account and then had to wait 2 months to redeem the miles. Again, bit of a difficult. So we have been able to secure a Bilt exclusive where actually the way this works is every single day we take a look at which Bilt members have transferred to Japan Airlines. We send a list every night to Tokyo with your Japan Airlines Mileage Bank number, and we tell them, hey, can you please unlock these accounts so that they can redeem as soon as possible? The official language we have there is this can take up to a week because if, imagine on a Friday night you did this and then it's going to be, Monday morning before they can process this list manually. We put 7 days. In reality, it should be 3 to 4 days at most, if not, 24 hours after you transfer, because we are setting that list every single night of the weekday that you're going to be able to redeem. So we were really excited to get that worked out with Tokyo as well. Another reason to come and, participate in the Bilt program if you want to unlock that Japan Airlines stuff. But man, they do have an award chart change coming in about a month in June. They are going to go up on prices for their premium cabin classes. They're going up like 8% on their economy class flights. So I would encourage everybody, hey, take a look at transferring now and booking before those prices do go up. However, this is like by no means a program-wide devaluation where this program is not worth participating anymore. Quite the contrary. Still incredible value. And if you just look at the onboard experience now, especially on the new A350s for first and business class, like it's just arguably the best in the air right now, period. And really encourage everybody to go take a look. And again, look at those partner redemptions. They got a distance-based award chart. Really advantageous rates, a lot of sweet spots. I saw some great articles come out this week after we launched this from people really diving into a program, again, that's been inaccessible to North America. And I cannot wait to get back to Tokyo. I have not been back since we left in 2016. We've been waiting for Thomas to be old enough to take him back to show him where he was born and the house we took him home from. So this partnership, again, just very nostalgic for me, some emotional tie-ins, and we're certainly going to use Bilt points now to book our Japan Airlines flights to take the family back over there, hoping for this winter if we can make it happen. I'm trying to get a booking in myself before the award chart changes. Really excited about this, and I really appreciate everybody recognizing the value that this brings to the table. Just an overwhelming positive response from our members and the media and everybody on adding this transfer partner. And as always, man, we're not done. Still plenty of more goodness to come in the near-term future.
Well, I hope so, because I keep spending on my Bilt credit card. And I will just say that I have some nostalgic memories of Japan Airlines as well. Going back to 2012, I think, I actually won a free business class trip to Tokyo on the inaugural 787 flight from Boston to Narita. So, and got to do that on Japan Airlines. And just to show my support, Mr. Kerr, and to make sure that I could start my clock. Tonight, when you're done with your work, you'll need to send over to Japan Airlines my new JAL mileage bank account that I just created while you were talking, and make sure that they activate that so that I'll be ready within my 7 days. So if you could just make sure you take care of that before you head out tonight, I'd appreciate that.
You just got to transfer 1,000 points, and then you're on the list.
I could do that. Can you handle that for me, or do I have to do that myself?
We have an automated system to handle that for you, but if you go ahead and transfer those points, your number will be included, and by Monday morning our time, you should be unlocked for redemption.
Monday morning, unlocked.
I mean, I would just encourage everybody, hey, whether you're going to transfer or not, just because JAL has this rule, everybody go make a Japan Airlines account today and your 60-day ticker starts. So that way, if you want to redeem 2 months from now, you don't even have to wait for us to unlock it. You're good to go. So go ahead and create your JAL account now and start that 60-day timer.
The clock has started. All right, well, let's transition from the JAL Bilt goodness to the special the special circumstances surrounding the most recent news from Newark Airport.
Yeah, man. So what caught my eye in the last 24 hours is that Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy switched his wife's flight off of a Newark flight to LaGuardia. And just for political appearance's sake, I would have done the same thing. I've encouraged everybody, all of my coworkers have sent me messages, should I switch out of Newark? And I'm like, yes. Now, him being in that position, probably not the best move to make. You just got to eat it, man, because you're responsible. Whether you got us here or not, you're responsible. And I thought that was some great headline fodder. But yeah, I looked into it a little bit more after seeing that headline. There are reports that at any given time, there should be 14 qualified air traffic controllers on duty for the Newark N70 space, I guess it's called. At any given time this week, there were 3, 2 of which may have not even been fully certified. I've been looking at FlightAware and sending like you and Howie nerdy pictures of like seeing what's going on at Newark. They're using the cross one-way even for the wide bodies, which is much shorter. They got the wild approach pass where you're making those last-minute turns in order to free up the one active long runway for departures. And even the departure patterns are super wild because you got to get up and over quick those planes that are coming in from the west.
Yeah,
and it just continues to just kind of go downhill. There was another radar outage because of the old copper wires that are feeding the information into the controllers. This has caused some of the controllers to rightfully so have, trauma leave, because if you lose your radar scope for 30 seconds with thousands of passengers in your hands, not a great spot to be in. There's been talk of, Last I heard from the folks over at Dots, Lines, and Destinations, there was an emergency, funding bill going through that was going to really try and pile up the dollars to make this work. But we know it's not just the dollars in this case. After Seth walked us through, it's years of pipeline training that's required and getting folks qualified. It just does not look good, man. So the latest that I've read is that the transportation secretary is going to press the airlines even further to, get rid of some flights. We know United's already taken 35 daily round trips off the schedule. I just saying it out there to everybody. If you can get away from Newark, please do so. I am looking at flights every day. They're all delayed. There's one runway closed, no air traffic control, and things get backed up. Even in the best of weather and the second spring thunderstorms and showers come through, you're just it's not going to work out well for you. So please avoid Newark at all costs. And I really hope that, whoever these air traffic controllers are on duty right now are like American heroes, in my opinion. Showing up to those offices in Philadelphia to control this arrivals and departures got to be unbelievably stressful work right now, and they're literally keeping you safe. So best wishes to those folks, and I really hope that the government can step in here and get some lifeblood supplies as quick as possible. But for everybody listening to this podcast, please do not try to fly in or out of Newark Airport right now.
No, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, a difficult job is made even more difficult when the reported staffing levels are as low as they are right now in Newark. So it just makes the job harder for the people that actually show up to work. And I think, again, we don't have inside knowledge on this, but it seems to be pretty widely reported that on one of the shifts where they were staffed as low as they were staffed, that they actually, the main certified controller wasn't even scheduled to work that day, agreed to cancel a PTO day to come into work. So, those are some pretty dangerous threshold levels. And when we think about perspective, from a customer service standpoint, I won't open one of our Five Guys restaurants with less than 3 employees because that's what it takes to serve our customers well. But if somebody gets the wrong toppings on their burger, I can make them a new burger. The stakes for me are a lot lower than what we're talking about with with air traffic controllers. So to Richard's point, definitely applaud the folks that are answering the bell and coming to work in these incredibly trying staffing times. And order magnitude here, even if the articles are wrong and they had 5 controllers instead of 3, I mean, they're still less than half of the staffing levels that they really need to be effective.
Just pull up FlightAware right now if you're listening to this and see how many flights are click on the plane that's about to land at Newark and look at its originally scheduled flight time and what time it's landing. It's not going to be on time, probably going to be significantly late. Can you imagine being in that office in Philadelphia, got the little clicker in your hand, talking to all the different back to back to back, and then all of a sudden, and everything's blank, and you're like, oh, why? Obviously the pilots are still in control and they know where they're at. And they got TCAS and they got all these things. They know how to, aviate their planes safely, but dude, that's just unbelievable. And more importantly, probably sitting there all day, every shift, knowing at any given time, the sucker's just going to go down on you. And you're just that's even worse is the anxiety of waiting for it just to go blank on you. Just absolutely terrible. Oh, geez.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, well, let's end with a quick recap. We talked about softening travel demand. We're continuing to see things out there. A whole bunch of American Airlines flights that have popped up internationally that are pretty incredible deals, both through American and Alaska. The thrifty travel alerts are coming fast and furious of things that have been out there that are just, I don't want to necessarily say surprising, but curious to hear your thoughts on what you've seen over the past week, because we talked about it a week ago, and it seems to have even accelerated a bit more.
Yeah, I was actually listening to the podcast for this week that we recorded a week beforehand, so it's been about a week and a half since we recorded that, and the number of low-cost airfare deals and award availability that I'm seeing is really something, man. So seeing less than $400 round trip to Europe in August and September on American Airlines to a variety of different locations. Seeing award availability all over the place to Europe in both economy and business class we haven't seen in a while. Getting a lot of emails about hotel offers, 20% off all inclusives of Hyatt's, seeing, double point promotions, seeing a lot of different things that are just, these companies trying to get some bookings for this summer.
Yeah.
That it's just kind of coming. It was sporadic at first, but now it's like something, every single day. In the email that's worth taking a look at, or a text from one of these alert services, or just cruising the Google Flights Explorer map and putting in random weeks for this summer and just seeing unbelievable prices for, economy tickets come up. So Definitely think something's coming. There's kind of mixed messages officially where, some people are saying domestic travel is great. The international travel might be down a bit, but, I think you said, some of your data points is that there was actually a half empty flight to Vegas. And I hadn't heard you say anything about an empty seat to Vegas in many years.
Yeah.
So is it here, man? Like, is it going to happen? What are we waiting on? What is the problem? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, I think like we're definitely seeing some softness for sure, some softening demand in a lot of different places. I also think, just something else to think about is, you know, airline, and maybe this is a little bit too nerdy, and maybe I'm way off base in thinking this, but I'm curious your thoughts. We know that when you redeem miles for an airline ticket, it's free for us, but it comes at an expense to the airline in terms of their balance sheet. They're managing liabilities on their balance sheet. So, being able to move all these points off their balance sheet is a good thing from a financial standpoint to some degree for them because they need to be able to control that liability. But you also know too, like those have real expenses for these loyalty programs. And so if there is this dump of inventory this summer and there's a whole ton of award seats and they're flushing miles off the balance sheet, does that lead to discussions in the fall of readjusting award charts to make up for what they gave away this summer? Because the summer is when they're supposed to make hay and make their money. And so, by moving the miles from, off the balance sheet, they're helping the company out from a profitability standpoint to some degree, but they clearly didn't want to do this summer. So it just, to me, I there's a little bit of nervousness that maybe they're going to try and rebalance in the fall after having a weak summer and having to, flush all these miles off the balance sheet.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Did we talk last week, or had I booked it yet? I mean, I got all four of us on Condor business class from Frankfurt to New York back with Alaska miles, and it was like every single day there were 4+ seats on every Condor flight back to North America.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like fine, yeah, and it was 55,000 Alaska miles per person, like screaming deal, under $200 YQ. Like we weren't gonna find that last summer coming home from Europe. Like it was, you got to get pretty lucky to find that stuff. It'll be interesting, man. It's certainly in sit and wait and watch. And then for those of us, again, who are just fortunate and lucky enough in life, like now's the time to take advantage of some deals. So when these, if you're not in the Thrifty Traveler alerts, or you don't have any of the other award availability things, if you're not, setting alerts on Roam or Point Me or anything, I'm just telling you, now's a great time to do it and be ready to jump on it with some of these points and miles.
Yeah, especially if you have flexibility. I mean, I work off of a school schedule, so it's a little harder for me. Richard, just you got all your business travel. But I mean, there are opportunities out there. I think that, to your point, it's a good time to be looking. And man, what a time from a value standpoint for the Alaska program. I saw something go by, just flashed across my screen, a tweet, and I haven't verified this yet, but I saw a tweet that said that the transfers to Hawaiian, transfers from Amex to Hawaiian were anticipating to be ending the end of June. For the first time, I'm really understanding the value of Alaska mileage plan. Used them to get to Japan, and now I'm seeing all these fabulous deals, for flights to and from Europe. Boy, what an incredible time for the Alaska program.
Yeah, if you have not taken a look at getting a Hawaiian co-brand card, now's the time to do that, and maybe another American Express sign-up bonus you can hit before the transfers end. Like I'm going to be doing a lot of work here over the next, it looks like a time of recording 6 weeks to try and plus up that Hawaiian balance so that I can get it over into the Alaska program. Because again, there's no such thing as too many Alaska miles. And I need to plus that account back up after just dropping the 220,000 for the four of us to fly business back.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, and then this is going to be our poll question for listeners. We'll put this out on the socials and in Slack. I have, off the top of my head, I don't redeem my Amex membership rewards points very often for things. I this is a valuable currency, but I'm like a Chase Ultimate Rewards guy. That's like hammer those points. So I probably have, call it somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 Amex membership rewards points right now. How many of those should I transfer to Alaska? That's my poll question, but I'm putting you on the spot, Mr. Kerr. If between now and if June 30th is the date, now and June 30th, how much of my 500,000 membership rewards points balance should I be moving to Alaska?
I got a few acquaintances who have texted me who are not necessarily points and miles pros, but have read enough about this and asked, and they said like, "Hey, I got 800,000 Amex. How, dude? I especially if you're telling me that you don't redeem them very often, I'm probably sending the vast majority of them over there. If you have 500,000, I'm probably spending 350,000 over to Alaska, and that keeps you 150,000 Amex to get a round trip somewhere if you need it at the last minute. But the thing with Amex, man, apparently I don't understand this business model, but you just get as many business platinums and platinum cards as you want and just get as many 150, 200,000 sign-up bonuses. So you can easily replace that Amex balance as quick as you need, which is the other reason that I would tell you to go ahead and flush as many of those as possible into Alaska, because it's just going to be a lot harder outside of Bilt or Alaska co-brand card or flying Alaska every single week to get those Alaska miles. And it's such a great program. So I would minimum 350,000, because you can just get another 150,000 with another business platinum, and you can knock that spend out from your day job in a month. I wouldn't, if you were like, I'm sending all of them, I'd be like, send it, dude. That's fine with me. Great.
Well, and you bring up a really good point too, which is I can always transfer my Bilt balance over there as well in the future to make sure I can get Alaska, because I don't have any other way. I don't have an Alaska credit card. I don't fly them very often, so I don't have great ways to generate Alaska miles for sure. All right, Mr. Kerr, let's land the plane there. I can tell you that I will be living vicariously through you as you go camping with the kids this weekend. I hope that the roof repairs that you made to the RV are successful ones, because I've lost track, but it's certainly more than once that you have texted me on a camping trip with a string of expletives and the roof leaking over you. It's been, at least 3 or 4 times that I've gotten that text from you, and I really don't want to get another one this weekend.
Luckily, this was just a cosmetic fix of some vinyl trim. There was no leak.
There was no leak.
It was a little. Is this a 1-inch wide strip of vinyl that goes over the screws that hold the nose cap on, and that vinyl trim over the years in the sun had just degraded a little bit. So, in order to replace that, I did have to undo some caulking and replace that vinyl trim, and I caulked it back early this morning at 7 a.m. Eastern time. Dude, I completely forgot one huge thing we have to just nail right quick. On Monday, the new FTC rules requiring transparent pricing for short-term lodging, including vacation rentals and hotels, went into effect, which means, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at the pricing of a hotel room or Airbnb or Vrbo, it has to include all mandatory fees. I have been on this bandwagon or the beat or whatever you call it. Crusade. For many years, fighting for transparent pricing, and it is finally here. The worst offender of all time, Great Wolf Lodge, is nearly in compliance. They're a lot better now. And it's so interesting. I'm just going to pick on Great Wolf Lodge because they're just the worst. They had a week-long day of deals last week that ended the day before the new rules went in place. And I went, I wonder if this is convenient, coincidence, or purposeful. I will tell you, the advertised prices last week during their quote-unquote sales were 50% of the actual nightly room rate after you added all the resort fees that they had on there. And they just have some they now charge for mandatory self-parking in a lot that's completely empty, all this stuff. When on Monday they were made to come in compliance, their prices are down about 30% even versus the sales they were running last week, because they can't bait switch you anymore. They got to show what the actual price is up front, and that has lowered the price because they know if they actually advertise the real price, they're going to lose bookings. This is exactly the outcome that we had hoped for when you're made to actually comparison shop the real price of a good that you're buying and not be duped until the last page where they don't even have an itemized price list unless you expand it. And it's fantastic to see. So I hate that it got to that point that the big old bad government had to step in and make these people do right. But it has lowered prices from what I've seen, including now ticket resellers. There's an app called the Game Time app that does pretty heavy advertising. I have always stayed far away from it when I'm looking at Braves tickets, because they always advertise the price that was literally half of what the actual ticket cost once they added their service fees. Now that all of those fees are up front, dude, the last week, I was looking at this last week before, ticket prices to Braves games on this app have gone down 25-30% because they actually have to advertise the real cost of the good. And they know if they were advertising that bum price last week that wasn't the real price, and people saw how expensive it actually was, they were going to lose ticket sales. So the initial reaction off the first week is great, exactly what we hope for. You got to show the real price for the real good. And if you can't knock it up anymore with fake fees to make it more expensive, you're going to lose bookings, and you got to be comparative or priced a lot better. So huge fan of this. Really wish that it applied to other things like car rentals. Not sure how they've escaped this scrutiny now that airlines and hotels and short-term rentals are underneath it and ticket sellers. But one thing at a time, man. A huge win for U.S. consumers. And I really hope that this law has some teeth, and that the second people start to get out of line, because we know they're going to, that the FCC steps in and does not allow it. So if you find somebody that is out of compliance and not showing the real price of a good or the real price of a short-term rental, please report that to the FTC and make sure that they know that we as American consumers appreciate this rule. So huge fan of it, man. It's been years in the making. and I love seeing the actual price advertised.
All right, well, Mr. Kerr hops down off the soapbox just in time. We're gonna leave it there. I am sure that you will be out there hunting down those who are not in compliance with the new rules. Mr. Kerr celebrates this day, and we will forever refer to this as Resort Fee Liberation Day. We'll call it. Mr. Kerr, I hope that you guys have an incredible time camping this weekend. I will not be there with you.
Too bad.
Talk to you next week, sir. I got another 4 or 5 days on the road myself. Till we upload again, we've got miles to go. No. Yeah, no. Just no. Yeah. Still a no for me.